Hello everyone and welcome! In today's video, I'm putting this tiny 1/24 scale RC Dodge Ramcharger to the test. It's a beautiful day and I've got some great shots of this truck rolling down the creek to share with all of you. Well, that's not really the rolling that I meant, but regardless, let's hit the trails while I talk a bit about this pretty unique little rig and discuss some future plans. If you've been following this channel for a while now, you'll probably recall this Ramcharger build from earlier this year. On a budget of around $100, this Ramcharger was a very simple custom build, utilizing a ready-to-run RC 4-wheel drive 1/24 scale Trailfinder 2 as a base and a Revell plastic model kit for the body. Obviously, the goal for this build was not necessarily to make something to conquer the toughest terrain, but instead to build a truck that sort of represents a mild custom, street-legal 4x4 that wouldn't look out of place on the streets or trails in the 1980s. I'll be sure to leave a link below in the description to that build video if you'd like to check it out. I was very pleased with how this truck turned out, though admittedly it's a bit more of a looker than a performer. Of course, this will always be the case with a tiny tire, smaller scale build like this, though unfortunately RC 4-wheel drive sort of dropped the ball a little bit on some aspects of this truck. Out of the box, the electronics, suspension, and turning radius aren't great. As a result of this, you can't really drive the truck scale, so to speak. Instead of driving slowly like you would with a real truck, you sort of just have to hit an obstacle at full throttle and hope for the best. Well, maybe a few people drive their full-scale rigs like that. Regardless though, you can't really observe the lifelike suspension movement or slow-speed crawling when driving this thing down the trail. When you slow down the footage though, as much of the footage that you're seeing here has been, it does look pretty cool. A softer suspension that isn't prone to getting stuck in place, and a motor with a lot more torque would have really sold me on this platform. But the $170 retail price doesn't really make this an attractive option for a custom build, unless of course you can get one for a lot cheaper, as I was able to do for this Ramcharger project. I still say this RC 4-wheel drive Trailfinder 2 has its place, but I would have to imagine for the majority of hobbyists wanting a smaller scale off-road truck with fairly lifelike proportions, going with one of the other smaller scale offerings from Kyosho, Axial, or FMS is going to give you a better rig right out of the box, and oftentimes for less money. I did review the 1/24 scale Trailfinder 2. If you're interested in learning more about this platform, I'll link that video below in the description. While it does appear that RC 4-wheel drive has discontinued this 1/24 scale Trailfinder 2, I would like to see a revised version, as there really is a lot of potential for this platform, particularly for someone who wants to build a very lifelike scale model, such as what you see here. As I believe I said during one of my earlier videos, this platform is a great idea, it's just kind of poorly executed. As you know, I love building RC vehicles with a focus on scale realism, and I've been brainstorming some ideas for another build similar to this Ramcharger, once again utilizing a plastic model kit, and perhaps making something even more lifelike than what you see here. One issue though, and I sort of talked about this a little bit in the Ramcharger build video, is that although many manufacturers list their RC crawlers as being 1/24 scale, in reality, if you do the math, the axles, the tires, and the wheelbase would be massive when scaled up to 1:1, literally like a monster truck. As a result of this, very few plastic model kits, which are usually a true 1/24th or 1/25th scale representation of the real truck, are going to fit well over these RC crawler chassis. Some of the only chassis, axles, and kits that I could find for a reasonable price that would fit some of these true 1/24th and 1/25th scale plastic models would be some chassis kits offered from Orlando. Many of these are marketed as 1/32nd or 1/35th scale trucks, but if you look at the dimensions of the wheels, axles, and the wheelbase, they'd be pretty much spot on for a relatively stock or mild custom 4x4 build, particularly for something like a Jeep or Bronco. With some work, it even looks like it would be possible to utilize the drivetrain and axles on the model kit's frame piece, not unlike what I'm doing with the 39 Chevy build that I'm currently working on. That would certainly make for a cool build, and something I definitely would like to try in the future. Another idea I had was to use a larger but more conventional and capable 24 scale crawler platform, such as the SCX-24 or FCX-24, and rather than try to shoehorn a plastic model kit body on top, instead 3D print a body tailored specifically for that chassis. There are so many really nice 3D printable model kits available, such as the one that I utilized to make that wall art for my scale shop build. With a digital model of the body, I can simply modify the scale to be whatever I need, perfectly adjusting it to fit the width and wheelbase of any chassis. After digitally modifying the body to be the exact size that I need, I can simply 3D print a hard body that will contain just about as much detail as you would find on a conventional store-bought plastic model kit. This would really be a good option if I wanted to do a build that somewhat prioritized off-road capabilities, but still have a well-fitting hard body that looks proportional and has tons of detail, such as a full interior. I would be curious to know what you all would like to see, whether that be a proper model kit to RC crawler conversion, or taking something like the popular SCX24 and doing a proper scale build with a custom and well-detailed 3D printed body. I will say one of the advantages of having a less capable truck such as this Ramcharger is you can have a lot of fun over terrain that would otherwise be a complete snooze fest for more conventional 10-scale crawlers. There are spots around this creek that are certainly a lot more than this little truck can handle, but there's also a lot of terrain such as this, which is just about perfect. Enough to give the truck a little bit of a challenge, but it's also not getting hung up every 6 inches. I really enjoy getting out into the woods to do some driving, but if you like to build your own crawler courses, you'll obviously be less limited when it comes to space if you're building a course for smaller scale RC trucks. No matter what truck you're running though, the right terrain can really make the driving enjoyable, and it certainly doesn't hurt to have a nice view. Despite taking a few tumbles, I was fortunate enough that the side view mirrors actually stayed in place, though I have had to re-glue them several times in the past. Just one of the compromises of using a body from a plastic model kit. The only casualty on this outing was a little piece that pops open the sunroof, which I was able to glue back in place. Even after putting a few miles on this truck, I'm happy to say that it's still looking and working great, with no issues so far. I'm still loving the old school styling and of course those tri-color decals. Definitely a great kit to pick up if you can find one for a decent price. I've seen quite a few folks use this same body for their custom RC builds. It'll even fit some larger chassis like the SCX24, though of course it's going to have much more of a mega truck look than the street legal weekend warrior that you see here. All in all, it's a lot of fun not only being able to build a model, but then to drive it once it's complete. It's always a lot of fun to get out and do some driving, and I hope you all enjoyed some of these shots that we were able to capture with the Ramcharger. There's lots more content on the way, so be sure to stay tuned. But until the next one, thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.